questions I would like to pose to all of you who are watching this video. Do you think that you know your parents better now that you have become older? Or do you think you realized or you were closer to your parents when you were younger? And what is the truth? Now you must be wondering why I'm asking you this question. Well, the truth is very simple to understand. Because this is a sort of similar question which is being in the mind in the protagonist of our story, or shall I say the short story penned by prominent New Zealand modernist short story writer Katherine Mansfield. As you can see, this is actually a chapter titled The Little Girl, which is in your textbook Behive. And Mansfield actually builds a whole world around this girl who's our protagonist, whose understanding, whose feelings towards her parents, primarily her father, changes from that of a fear to that of an understanding to that of compassion in the future. Now, this feeling, I think this is something which all of us, usually it is being termed, you may have heard of this commonly used term before, daddy's little girl. Have you ever wondered why it is daddy's little girl? Why not, and why is it mama's boy? Well, there may be multiple notions. Maybe there is an the people who coined these terms, maybe they wanted some equilibrium of gender being maintained there. But the truth is, somewhere along the line, the girls are much closer to their fathers. But what about when we were younger? Were we able to understand our fathers? Were we able to understand the love? Because there's one truth, I think every one of us would agree. Fathers tend to express their love in a much more understated manner. When we talk about our mothers, well, they are the epitome of everything. Sacrifice, love, friendship, companionship. And she never fails to acknowledge the love she has for us. But what about fathers? Do they actually acknowledge it that much? Or is it just hidden in the certain small deeds which they do for our daily lives? Like prominently, you may have heard the livelihood which we are having, the things which we are being provided by our fathers. Due to whom are we able to live so comfortably in our life? Our fathers. Well, yes, taking this stepping stone in our life and in our class. Welcome back to your English class, students. Today we'll be starting off with this chapter titled The Little Girl, which is a short story penned by prominent short story writer of New Zealand, Katherine Mansfield. There are multiple themes being taken up here, as you can see. There is fear, control, freedom, independence, acceptance, compassion and change. And you will find that all of these themes keep on changing, or shall we say, keep on evolving with the passage of the story. So let us begin with the chapter. You will find this chapter on page number 32, and there it starts and I'm going to start it while reading, and I'm going to try to explain to you paragraph wise. So let us begin. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to work, he came into her room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with, "Goodbye, father." And oh, there was a glad sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. In the evening when he came home, she stood near the staircase and heard his loud voice in the hall. "Bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the paper come yet? Mother, go and see if my paper's out there. And bring me my slippers." Now to the little girl, he was a figure to be feared. She was very fearful of her father. And how do we get to understand? Through these lines. Before leaving for work, if we can see a small tendril of affection from the father's side, that every morning whenever he used to leave for work, he used to come to the daughter's room and give her a casual peck, and she would always reply, "Goodbye, father." But the moment he would leave and the moment the child would hear the sound of the carriage growing fainter and fainter, that means when the vehicle, the carriage which the father used would move away from the house, the child would feel a sense of relief dawning over her, and quite relieved that okay, the fearful figure is no longer in this house. And in the evening when he came home, she used to keep on standing near the staircase and keep on staring at that fearful figure when he used to speak in a loud voice. Why do you think she was scared? There are many instances you will understand, but I think that one of the criterion is his loud voice. In the booming voice he would call upon, "Mother, where's my slip? Where's my newspaper? Where's the slipper? Do it, do that." Because when people generally come back from home, they are quite tired and they want everyone to be placed right in front of them. So she used to be quite scared, maybe because of the loud voice. Let us continue. Let's see what happens next. Kezia, mother would call to her, "If you are the good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots." Slowly the girl would slip down the stairs, more slowly, still across the hall, and push open the drawing room door. And the mother, she would try to break the ice between the parents, between the parent and the child, and she would say, "If you're a good girl, you can come down here and help father in putting off the boots." And she would literally slither down, being very scared of this fearful figure out there. And she would slowly push open the drawing room door. By that time, he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to the little girl. So I guess by the time she would enter, he would have his spectacles on and he would stare at her over the spectacles, which seemed to be very terrifying to that little girl. "Well, Kezia, hurry up and pull off these boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl?" Who do you think is the speaker? Well, yes, it's the father. "Hurry up and pull these boots. Have you been a good girl?" "I don't know, father." Did you notice something? This girl used to stutter in front of her father. "You don't know? If you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor." So she used to stutter in front of her father, maybe because of fear. She never stuttered with other people, yes. She only used to stutter in front of her father. Had quite given it up, but only with father. Because then she was trying so hard to say the words properly. Now students, try to understand, whenever people stutter, it is because they become so very conscious in trying to speak clearly that sometimes or the other, or most of the times, they stutter. And she had given it up with all of the people, but she used to stutter in front of the father. So that means she was terrified of her father. "What's the matter? What are you looking so wretched about?" "Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide." What is the meaning of on the brink of suicide? The father was worried because the child used to look so very scared, terrified, and used to stutter in front of him and maybe petrified of him, that the father thought that this child looks as if she cannot survive anything. So mother, can you please take care of this child? So this was somewhere or the other. We can think maybe the father was very strict, but he was also a little bit worried about his little girl. "Here, Kezia, carry my teacup back to the table carefully." He was so big. His hands and his neck, especially his mouth when he yawned. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. Now it seems a little bit funny, sorry. But I personally find it a little bit funny. Why? So what are the factors we have found till now that makes him scary in the eyes of the little girl? He has a loud voice. He used to look at her over the spectacles to scare her out. Maybe not deliberately, but she used to be scared. Then he was so big, his hands were big, and even his mouth was big when he used to yawn. So even thinking about her father, she used to imagine him like that of a giant. Maybe because through these lines we get to understand that she seems to be a little girl, not only size-wise but maybe age-wise as well. She seems to be between the age group of 3 to 8, who's quite small as compared to the size or height of the father. And she used to be very scared whenever someone used to call her, "Kezia, come here," and she would be petrified out of her mind as to what would happen to me if I don't go there, or if I do something wrong. So she was scared of him because of the difference in their heights, maybe difference in their sizes. Let's continue. On Sunday afternoons, Grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with father and mother. Now we come to the next important character of the story, the grandmother. She seems to be a very kind woman. Yes, grandmothers are always loving to us. But here the grandmother is also playing a major role. Why? Because she is trying to act as a bridge between Kezia and her parents. Kezia, who is very much scared of her father, and the father, who it seems is not very much open in expressing his emotions towards the child, maybe not directly. So the grandmother used to push Kezia on the Sunday afternoons to go and have a talk with her Kezia's parents, so that they could get to know each other better. But the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. See students, you can find the description, the whole visual description as it is being written on page number 33, where the whole description of what would the parents be doing is written, where the mother would be found reading in the living room and the father would be snoring on the sofa, putting a handkerchief on his face and his feet on one of the best cushions. So it seems that the parents were so much engrossed in their own activities that they seem to not have any time to interact with the child. She sat on a stool, gravely watched them. Gravely means she used to watch them because she was being asked to do so, not being very much interested, but she used to seriously watch them until he woke and stretched and asked the time, then looked at her. And she used to do that until the father used to wake up and stretch and ask for the time and then look at her. Don't stare so, Kezia. You look like a little brown owl. This was a type of humor from the father. Maybe a bit scary for a little child, but that was a sort of dry humor which adults usually do. And he used to ask, don't stare at me like that, Kezia. You look like a little brown owl which keeps on looking at someone like that. One day, when she was kept indoors with a cold, her grandmother told her that father's birthday was next week and suggested she should make him a pincushion for a gift out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. So one day, there came a day when Kezia was not allowed to go outside, maybe because the temperature was quite cold, and maybe because it's written because of cold, so there may be two reasons. Maybe Kezia was suffering with the cold, or maybe the temperature was quite low. It's not clear being here. But the grandmother told her that she should, that the next week was the father's birthday. So Kezia should prepare some gift, some pincushion for the father. Laboriously. What is the meaning of laboriously? With a lot of difficulties and effort. With a double cotton, the little girl stitched 3 sides. What to fill it with? That was a question. The grandmother was out in the garden and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. So what is a pincushion? A pincushion is actually a sort of pillow, where people can actually use it for the sticking up pins so that it doesn't get stuck to the people's bodies and everything. So she, with a lot of effort, that girl used double-sided cotton and yellow silk to stitch the 3 sides. But there was one problem. What to fill it up with? It was like a small cushion. So the 3 sides were being already stitched. So what to fill it up with? The grandmother was already in the gardens, mother was also not there. So Kezia kept on searching for scraps, some scrap material like paper or clothes or something to fill it up so that the pincushion can be stitched completely. She wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. On the bed table she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces and stuffed a case, then sewed up the fourth side. When she went to her mother's bedroom, on the table, she found great many sheets of paper. She tore them up into tiny pieces, filled them up in the small pincushion and sewed up the fourth side. That night, there was a hue and cry in the house. What is the meaning of hue and cry? There was a lot of shouting and people were shouting at each other in the house. Father's great speech for the port authority had been lost. writer has done a little bit of foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, you can write it down. Foreshadowing is a type of literary device which a writer uses to give us a little bit of hint what may happen in the future. Why was there the hue and cry? Because the great speech which father had written for the Port Authority was lost. Rooms were searched. Servants questioned. Finally, mother came into Kezia's room. Everyone was questioned. Everything was being searched. Finally, mother, that is Kezia's mother, she came into Kezia's room and she is asking him, Kezia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on a table in our room? Well, she already did. So that girl was very, very honest. The little girl was very honest and she said, oh yes, she said, I tore them up for my surprise. Beautiful child. When the mother asked that I just hope that you didn't see some papers, she was so very honest. She honestly answered that yes, I did. And I tore them up for my surprise. What? Screamed mother. Come straight down into the dining room this instant. Another would be scared, would be angry out of their mind. And she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro, hands behind his back. And when mother got to know that she has actually torn up that speech, so now you do realize the great many sheets of paper that Kezia had actually gathered and torn and filled it up in her gift for father, that was actually the speech which father had written for the Port Authority. So the hard work was gone, even though Kezia's hard work was not going to be remembered. Let's see. So mother actually dragged that girl down where father was pacing to and fro, keeping his hands behind the back. Well, he said sharply. Mother explained the whole situation. He stopped and stared at the child. So he just stopped pacing and he just kept on staring at the child in a very scary manner. Did you do that? No, she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damn thing. See that the child's put to bed this instant. You understand the conversation? This question, did you do it? It is spoken by the father. The child in a small voice whispered, no. So he simply stated to the mother, you go up to her room and fetch that damn thing, that surprise which she created, down. And take her to that room right now. And make sure that she sleeps right now. She is put to bed means she is made to sleep right now. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room watching the evening light make sad little pattern on the floor. And when she was being taken in her room, she kept on crying so much. When this was being ordered by the father, she kept on crying so much that it was very hard for her to explain. And while even lying down on the bed, she could not sleep. Why? Because she was crying so hard. And she kept on looking as the shadowed room. That means it's in the evening time, maybe the sun was setting and the shadows were making weird, sad little patterns. Why are sad little patterns are being used here by Mansfield? Well, Katherine Mansfield has written sad little patterns corroborating the mood of the child. She was also sad. Then father came into the room with a ruler in his hand. So he brought a scale, a long scale, a ruler in his hand. I'm going to beat you for this. So what did the father decide? He had decided that this girl needs to be punished for this action of hers. Oh no, she screamed, hiding under the bedclothes. So the girl kept on saying, no. What is the meaning of hiding under the bedclothes? That means she actually hid herself under the bed sheet and the bed cover. She may have actually covered herself and kept on saying, no, please don't beat me. He pulled those bed sheets aside. He pulled those bed covers aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. And he very rashly, he said, pull up, sit properly, and hold out your hands. You must be taught the lesson not to touch the things which do not belong to you. Yes, it was a very important lesson, students. You may have got this lesson in different manners. It's very much important for the child to understand what are the pros and cons and what a child should do and shouldn't do. It's a duty of a parent. So what he had decided, that while beating this child on her palm, she should be taught a lesson in this matter. That is, not to touch those things which do not belong to her. But it was for your birthday. We can imagine. But it's very true. She had torn those sheets only to prepare the surprise for her father's birthday surprise. So she stated, but it was for your birthday. He didn't hear it. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms. And he was so angry. The ruler kept on striking her on her little pink palms. I know I'm stopping at the worst possible moment, but what do you understand? We get to have an idea about the relationship between Kezia and her father primarily. A little bit about the household where the father seems to be the responsible person, where apart from a father there are only ladies, there is no other male member, so he seems to be the responsible person, he seems to be the one who takes the decision, and everyone follows those decisions being taken by him. And the girl, she's scared of her father so much. Even before, when we were discussing as to how much it's important for a parent to be strict to a child sometimes, this is heartbreaking, isn't it? Hitting a child. Well, we'll get to know what happens after that, after she is being hit on her palm, a little pink palms, because she had after all torn a very important document. Yes, her intention was very good. She wanted to actually create a surprise for her father, but in the course of doing so, she had actually torn up the hard work of her father. So we'll have to wait till the next class when I will continue with this chapter, and we will get to understand the evolution of the relationship between this father and daughter. Till then, take care, and in case of any doubts, feel free to comment, and I'll try to clear up your doubts.